Man, I'll tell you what, it's good to be back. It's good to be here tonight. Week one, it's over. I mean, it's already here. It's gone. So I just want to throw a shout out first off to my son Colton, who has given up his space in here for Daddy to come in here and create a studio. Just throwing this out there to you UC fans that might be watching the show, because obviously this is a Cincinnati-based show. This right here is a Big 12 championship ring. I have the distinct honor of being on the 1998 Big 12 champion Texas A&M Aggies, which is also the distinct honor of being the last conference championship the Aggies have won. So we're trying to break that curse here, just throwing a little love out to the Aggies. This is actually from the 2015 uh, the All Star game that was in Cincinnati when the Reds hosted the All Star game in 2015. Just all the cool stuff we got to do with that. But anyway, just throwing out a little shout out to my son Colton, giving up his room. So we're here. It's week one. Week one's over. I mean, I think everybody's talking about the stuff that happened last night, especially with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, and I mean the things that all that happened. I think the Bengals fans are actually looking at that in a way and saying the Jets still won that game, so they actually knocked off Buffalo without Aaron Rodgers, and it helps the Bengals out. Even though the Bengals went to Cleveland this weekend and lost, obviously in kind of disappointing fashion. It wasn't even heartbreaking fashion. It was just a disappointing game all around, and everybody understands that. Really, in all reality, that's not what this team is all about. So the people out there that are kind of looking at it and going, well, what happened? Are we that bad? No, nobody. The Bengals are not that bad. It's not going to happen. That just it's one game. Push past it. I think if you look even just last year, they were 0-2, lost to the Steelers at home, which obviously I think everybody understands should never have happened. Then you go to Dallas, and a pretty good Dallas team put it to them in Dallas in week two, and it's one of those things where you just kind of keep going. And the last I checked, they only lost 4 games in the regular season last year, and they started 0-2. So I wouldn't put too much emphasis on the fact that they went and lost to Cleveland in Cleveland. Because again, even last year they went to Cleveland and just got stomped in Cleveland. And sometimes that those kind of things happen. What I would say to the Bengals fans that are getting kind of nervous is, like Aaron Rodgers said, RELAX, relax. I think it's going to be okay. One of the things that really stood out from the other day, obviously, was the weather. And when you look at the lack of playing time in the preseason, with Burrow being out with the calf injury, just really not wanting to play your starters and getting those guys hurt in the preseason. Obviously, you don't want to do that because the Aaron Rodgers thing shows it. I mean, you go 4 plays into a season and some random. How many times has Aaron Rodgers been sacked in that manner? It's probably, I'd say, he upward of 500 times he has been tackled, or not necessarily sacked, but tackled in that manner. And it's one of those things where you look at and you say, what happens if something happens to one of those guys in the preseason? You don't want that to happen. So moving forward with what they're doing, I think they're going to be fine. They've had a week to get through it. Deshaun Watson, now you got to understand, is you can like him or hate him depending on who you pull for. Obviously, he's a very polarizing figure. I've mentioned that before. But the thing about Deshaun Watson, he goes 16 for 29 for 154 in the air, touchdown, interception, got sacked 3 times. He still got sacked 3 times. He had 5 rushes for 45 yards. You look at that and you say that's not that big of a deal. But really, in all reality, when you add that to Nick Chubb and what he did and the running game that the Cleveland Browns had, in that type of weather and the type of game that Burrow was having, it really didn't add up to a lot, because really Burrow, if you look, he probably has arguably his worst game as a pro, maybe even as a quarterback. I don't know. I can't tell you. I can't go back to his, looking through all of his college. I highly doubt at LSU he had a game as bad as this. Maybe in high school he might have had one. I don't know. Maybe go back to Little League back in back in Athens or in Ohio, so wherever he was playing Little League football. But he goes 14 for 31 for 82 yards, no touchdowns. He had no interceptions, and he had 2 sacks. I mean, that's a rough line, but a bright spot for the Bengals. Now, if you want to look for bright spots, and again, I was his coach. I helped draft the kid, and I have a really a soft spot in my heart for the kid. But Joe Mixon looked like the Joe Mixon of old. He looked like the kid that everybody thought Joe Mixon was going to be, the kid that got that second contract. I mean, he ran physically. He made people miss. He played with that kind of aggression that you look for in a running back. So, I think that opens some eyes. He had 13 rushes, 56 yards. It's not a big deal, 4.3 average, whatever. But when you look at the way he was running, I think you saw something there. He had a long of 22. So, I mean, he had some explosive runs. I just think the Bengals need to fix some simple things going forward. Obviously, with the Ravens coming to town, the Ravens over time, obviously have been a good team. Lamar Jackson didn't look great in this last game, and I'm not sure if that was the play calling or if that was just, the way it kind of fell down. But what I would say is, the Bengals over time have had the Ravens number. So I don't think the Ravens are necessarily scaring the Bengals. And that's where I think everybody's got to kind of take a step back. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start with the defense. I want to start with the defense of the Bengals. I do need to address this. Number one, come follow us, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Chatterbox Sports. Follow me at Coach Kyle Caskey, at CBox Sports on Twitter. We really want to get a following out there and get the show off the ground, and I appreciate everybody in the chat. We do have the super chat open. Love for y'all to be involved with that. I do have the chat open, so I am reading it, and I do like being a part of this. The other thing is the Bengals made a big move today, and I honestly didn't know about this till I got home. Obviously, I'm coaching football down here in Baton Rouge, and La'el Collins was cut. He was released from the PUP list today, and with the signing of Orlando Brown, and putting him out there at left tackle, moving Jonah Williams over to right tackle, you got to think La'el Collins blew his ACL out in December. So one of the things when you think of a bigger man, an older guy, I say older, he's 30, much younger than me, but a 30-year-old offensive lineman that blows his ACL out in December, sometimes that's hard to kind of come back from. But here's the thing that you got to look at is what do they have on the roster currently? And right now, you look across the board, they've already got guys in position. Now, does that make La'el Collins a backup if he comes back? So I think that's where they're looking at. And they just signed their quarterback to a multi-million-dollar deal, which we haven't addressed either. $275 million over 5 years for Burrow, which obviously that's a lot of money. And I would say at the rate, the way the NFL is going, he has earned every penny of that. I think he's that kind of quarterback. He's that elite quarterback. But if you look at Orlando Brown being your left tackle and Jonah Williams being your right tackle, it's hard to say we want to pay La'el Collins this much money. Being down here in Baton Rouge, a lot of people may not know this, but La'el Collins and Jeremy Hill were high school teammates at Redemptorist High School here in Baton Rouge, which actually is not even open anymore. But they were teammates in high school. Jeremy Hill and La'el Collins were, and then they were teammates obviously at LSU, and then they both have the background of being on the Bengals. So, but I would like to start with the defense and just looking at a few things. Now, the defense didn't play bad and didn't play poorly at all. I don't think the defense was necessarily a spot on the team that you really want to just beat up on, but what we're looking at here, I want to make a point of you. I made a point in the last clicker that Deshaun Watson is an X factor, and one of the things you can't do is you can't rush past him, because what he's going to do if you rush past him and you do this, he's going to end up dipping out and beating your rush lanes, which I'll show you here in a little while. But if you watch Trey Hendrickson right here on this rush, this is a fundamental that a lot of D linemen I know at the lower levels need to learn. And if you watch what he's doing here, so Deshaun Watson stops his drop right here. Well, you see here, Trey Hendrickson could keep rushing around. Everybody thinks, oh, you got to kind of, you got to run the hoop. Well, no, you don't have to run the hoop. Once you get to that level right there, come back underneath and you can get hits on the quarterback. If you see this from the end zone right here, the way this looks here, now you can see when Deshaun Watson pointed right over here at 55, they're sending their line over to him as you watch the way now they're getting to all their talks here. So this is what happens when you now see they flipped it after they talked about it. Now what happens is you one-on-one. Now they're trying to send the center over to help here. But what happens is, okay, so it's good. Great pocket. Really, if he wanted to turn up and run, cool, he could do that. But really what you're looking at is Trey Hendrickson got to that level where the quarterback is and then came back underneath and made a play. And obviously that pressure allowed that to be an incomplete pass. Now you're looking at 3rd and 7 here. I tried to add the scoreboards in this week just so that we can kind of get a feel for where we're at in the game. First quarter, obviously early. 3rd and 7 here. Now this is man coverage. Now I made a point about man coverage, and in the last clicker, what happens in man coverage is when you're covering guys in man, right here, you're not worried about anything over here. You're worried about where your guy is. Now they've got like a lurk or a robber player, and they got a deep safety. Well, that's great. But the problem is what happens when somebody falls down? So if you look here, I believe Reader falls down. You can see him right here. And he falls down just briefly. Well, when that happens, that rush lane right there where he was headed to opened up. And again, that may have been dealing with the soggy field. Who knows what that dealt with. But the point is when that happens and you're playing man coverage behind it, that there's nobody there to make up for you. So you fall down right here. Well, everybody else is chasing their guys, and there's your like lurker way back here. Well, he's not going to really make a difference. So this is a 3rd and 7 play. Well, where obviously he's got a pretty good amount of space there to run into, and that's where those kind of hidden yards come into play. Now this was nice by Lou Anarumo. Lou Anarumo does a good job of figuring out your protections and how you can beat them. One of the looks that you get is a blitz the back type look where you blitz here, and really this guy is covering the back. I'm sorry, my little lines are, that guy's really covering the back. But what happens is when the back ends up blocking, he has nobody to cover anymore, so he just adds on. So you'll see here, they'll blitz. He comes across. Well, he decides to block. Well, he adds on, and it adds a whole lot of just people just coming into on the blitz. So as you look here, 55 is going to end up, Logan Wilson's going to end up blitz. I guess it's Pratt that's going to end up blitzing. They just moved on me. So he's going to end up blitzing. He's going to add on. Well, what that does is that creates an issue with, it looks like a cross dog. It's really not a cross dog. But the tight end ends up running into him. I don't think he meant to. And then obviously a lot of people say this. It's funny. A lot of people say, well, who comes free in like a pick game? Is it the guy that's picking, or is it the guy that's being picked for? Is it the looper? Well, a lot of times the guy that's kind of running that pick game thinking that this guy's going to come free, a lot of times it's the guy that's actually setting the pick that comes free. As you can see here, it ends up causing a sack. So, now the thing about NFL offenses, I'm just going to throw this out there. The thing about NFL offenses is when you're in 3rd down and 4, like if you're 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, people might think you're going to run. Well, here's the thing that's going to happen. They're going to say at some point, well, all you're doing is showing a blitz look and you're trying to cover, and you don't care about gap integrity anymore. Well, this is what happens sometimes right here. A little bit of a quick snap there. Let me try to pause it. So you've got a double A look. So those are two linebackers in the A gaps. And what they're doing now is they're gonna end up. Sorry, got a little excited there on the clicker. What they're doing is they're saying it's 3rd and 4, so they got to get here, you know. So what they're going to end up doing is they're going to block down on everybody, pull a guy, and they're going to end up getting around the edge here on a 3rd and 4 play. And the reason they're able to have such success is because they're looking at this as a pass down. And so a lot of times, you know, they got these double A looks. You'll get blitzes off the edge. You'll get cross dogs. You'll get all kinds of crazy things out of these looks. When in all reality, sometimes all you got to do is just, you know, block these guys and pull a guy around. And I mean, you've got a pretty good, you know, angles right here. You got angles. He's pulling around for him. All they're doing is just zoning off on the backside right here, and you just hand off a quick outside zone G play versus a pass heavy front, like a, you know, right there they're playing pass. They're rushing, and then you set it up and you get a 3rd and 4 and it opens it up. Now, is this an issue with the Bengals? No, this is not an issue with the Bengals. Okay, this is an issue with just NFL football in general, because they think that you can 3rd and 4, you're going to do what you do. So, point being is this: they got him on that one. Now, Jermaine Pratt's a good player. I'm going to throw this out there. The more I watch this guy, I realize this guy's a really good player. Now, this is just a simple play. All right, again, got down in the red zone. Browns are probably going to run the ball. I'm not sure why Nick Chubb wasn't in the game, but you run some sort of, like, you know, a tackle trap here, and if you even notice, you can't really tell, but there's 57 right there. Well, from the end zone, I think a lot of you saw this on the live, you know, on the live broadcast, but he actually pulls this ball out. Like, this is a great play by 57. And when they end up making this, you know, this is a good run. I mean, honestly, by Cleveland, it's a well done run. I mean, you got a pretty good seam right there. But the problem is like, he gets hit right here. Now, this is Pratt right here. That's him right there. Well, what you don't see in this angle is he's actually yanking that ball out. He pulls that ball out of there. And that's a really good play. Now, here's the thing. In a game like this where it's raining and you're doing all those kinds of things where you just got, you know, you don't necessarily want to throw the ball. You want to run the ball. You want to run the clock. And you fumble the ball inside the 20-yard line, it's tough for any team to overcome from that. So that was a good job by the Bengals to do that. So still moving forward, first quarter. Just wanted to show this. This is they're actually bringing a what I call a saw blitz, a salmon wheel. It's a double-edged blitz, saw blitz. They're bringing, you know, a saw blitz here. So what happens is, now, normal coverage, I'm going to try to give you a little history lesson on coverage. If you're playing cover 3, it's 3 deep and it's 4 under. So you got a guy here, you got a guy here, you got a guy here, you got a guy here. All right, so 3 deep, 4 under. Now, what this is when you blitz, sometimes you void coverages. Okay, so when you void coverages, that means now you've got 3 deep, well, you got 2 under. Well, you're voiding a lot of area in here, and with what happened here is Deshaun Watson was able to scramble out of the blitz. They weren't able to get the blitz home, and you can see here that they're all, like, the 2 edge guys come off the edge. Whoa, that just went crazy. 2 edge guys went off the edge. You got the 4 inside guys kind of coming in. You got those 2 inside linebackers dropping. Well, if nobody gets home, because you can see right here, there's a gap in between 75 and right there. So there's a huge gap right there. There's nobody in that rush lane. Well, he finds his way up into that rush lane. He ends up hitting the guy in that voided coverage right there. See that when I say voids, there's a lot of voided, not covered areas. So that's what a voided coverage means. And they end up hitting that and obviously getting a big play out of it. So that was avoided fire zone coverage. So that's what that means when you hear somebody say there's avoided coverage. Indianapolis was known to do that with Eberflus. They known to do that, and it's one of those teams. It's one of those things that's kind of starting to take hold a little bit, but they just got to keep pushing and hopefully get home. All right, so I think everybody saw this play that watched the game, and I'll let it play just for a second, but I'll talk about kind of what the issue was. Well, you run, you obviously, I believe number 8's a receiver for Cleveland, but you put him in, you run him on an outside zone. Well, he gets over here. Great job on the front side. Great job on the front side. Now, why was he allowed to come all the way back? All right, and there's a couple things I want to hit on this. But so in most defensive coaches always tell you, if the run's away from you and you're the backside end, you're the quarterback to backside contain player. Well, what happens is Hendrickson checks Watson. Okay, he doesn't have the ball. Cool. So he starts playing down the line here, and then a lot of times, you'll say, I've heard certain coaches, this is going back to high school here, say, well, you need to contain at the quarterback level. So you come down and you kind of chase back at the quarterback level. It looks like they're telling Hendrickson, okay, well, contain back this way. Well, what happens is he should stay in this area right here. So if he does cut it back, he's there to make the tackle. Well, he goes just a little too far. And you can see right there, that's where they lost that backside contain. So, when that happens. Now, I will say this. You cannot block back to your own goal line. So, you cannot block back like this. Now, I want to say, why was this legal? Why was this legal? Deshaun Watson gets out of the way just in time. See how he turned his back to it? You can see it from the end zone. You can see this from the end zone right here, where just in time, it looks like he's going to hit him, and then he backs off of it. Then he kind of, butt blocks him, kind of blocks him out. Well, that's not technically blocking towards your end zone. So even though it was close, it still technically was legal. So, that's one of those ones that's kind of tough. It's tough to come to grips with a little bit sometimes, especially if you're a Bengals fan going, man, they're breaking the rules, but in all reality, they're not. Now, this is another type of blitz that's become kind of mainstream in the NFL. Is you put your two defensive tackles inside and you put your two linebackers in the B gaps and then put an edge player. Well, what happens is when they motion 34 out, that takes that edge defender out. Well, again, what did they do earlier? They decided, okay, we're going to run against a pass type of look. So they're actually going to let Hubbard. They're not even going to block Hubbard on this play. So they're going to run to the left, and they're going to basically run a quarterback trap. They're going to block down, quarterback trap, and run him through here. Now, should he make the play? Should he make the play? That's up for debate. But point being is when they looked at the plan, they said, we know we can get the Bengals in certain looks. We know we can get them in blitz looks. And when we do, you saw that they actually changed it. I don't know if you noticed, he threw his hands out to the side and he changed the play right there. You can see it right there. He's changing the play. They had a play called. And he said, no, we're changing the play. And they ended up down blocking, and pulling and kicking. And that creates, when you down block, you down block and you pull and you kick, it creates a lane right there. And that's where they were hitting that. So again, it's simple math, but they didn't have to block Hubbard on the backside. And then obviously, he just, they got to make a play there, to stop that run from happening. Now looking at something good. Again, we talked about Henderson not rushing past the quarterback, and we were talking about those kind of things. So what's going to happen here now on Hendrickson's sack here, you see how he rushes to this point right here. Now Deshaun Watson's right here. Now Deshaun Watson known as a runner. So do you want to rush past him and allow him to just run out of there? No, you don't want to do that. So as you see here, he rushes under and then ends up coming underneath and gets a sack. Those are the kind of fundamentals that a lot of young rushers need to really start learning. And as you watch here, so Deshaun Watson's going to stop out here. He's going to come up here and he's going to kind of come back underneath. And you can see it ended up, that's the one earlier that he got out on. That's the one earlier he got out on. And that's where Trey Hendrickson on that one didn't allow it to happen. So, again, they're doing some good things. It's just obviously when the game starts going in a certain direction, it happens. So, now, here's a look at a protection. It's a very intricate protection. Okay, so I'm going to kind of show it and I'm going to pause it to where you're at. And I'm going to show you all the different things that are happening here. So they're doing like I don't know why my red keeps showing up. I'm trying to keep it black. Sorry about that, guys. So they're running like an outside zone. Well, whatever the uncovered lineman is will like whirly bird out and pick up guys. So you got everybody running basically outside zone here, except for one guy's going to whirly bird and pick up on this side, and the back's going to help on this side. Well, what that allows for is you've got guys that are running long routes. He's going to run like kind of a half over, and he's going to bend it back out here against man coverage. And that's what allows you to do that is when you get these intricate protections that actually, these take a lot of time. When I tell you they take a lot of time to put together. But if you watch right here, it's going to be in and then back out. And that's what happens when you're running against man coverage, and it allows you to have time down the field. Now, what can the Bengals do to stop that? I mean, that's just one of those things. You just got to keep working on man coverage. As you look here, so they're all going here, backs here. He's going to wheel out back over here and help pick up on the backside. And you can see Deshaun Watson's kind of like wheeling back over here. And he steps back up. And again, this is what happens when you've got a quarterback who can handle that kind of motion and movement. And the kind of, I talked about his arm last week, about the type of arm he has. So, yes, it's frustrating as a Bengals fan. I understand your frustration, but you got to understand too, you have a quarterback that does the same thing. So, it'll happen. This was actually a tipped ball that led to an interception. So you talk about all the different things that the Bengals are doing now. You got a guy pulling here in protection. Again, a bunch of kind of intricate protections to try to get linemen in different places, pick up their blitzes. He's got pretty good time right here. All right, so he decides, okay, I'm going to break the pocket. Now the good thing about it is, as you look here, Zach Carter keeps playing. All right. And this is the kind of effort you got to get. And it's hard to see from this angle, but from the end zone angle, Zach Carter, I believe, is right here. So he's going to end up fighting his way back out. And when he fights his way back out, you'll see he gets his hand up just barely. When he fights his way back out, bam, he hits that ball. That ball's actually tipped right there. And it ends up falling into Dax Hill, and I mean, those are the kind of plays the Bengals are going to make all year because they got those type of players. So, there's some frustrating issues that are going on, but again, there's some positives to pull out of it. Now, this is a quarterback design run. So when you talk about Deshaun Watson, and you want to say, well, what could they have done different? So this is what some people call a bash play. So it's really a counter OT. So they're pulling the guard and the tackle. And what they're doing is they're bringing the back on a sweep over here. If you notice, these guys are blocking for the back. If this guy right here were to crash down, so if that end were to crash down, he would hand it to him and he would run around the edge. Well, this end plays up the field, so they're actually reading this guy. So all they're doing is they're running a normal play that they would run for the back, but the quarterback's reading it, and the quarterback's going to end up running. There goes my red again. So that's what's happening right here. So as you see, it's just enough. And then Hendrickson almost makes the play. But again, that's a quarterback design run that, it's hard to do unless you've got a guy who can handle that. And again, they're reading him, they're blocking back, they're doubling here, back to here. They're going to pull and kick this guy. I believe he arcs to him, and he's around for him. Back runs here, and you can see how that opens up right there. So he's going to kick Hubbard. He's going to pull around. They're reading him. Well, he went up the field, so obviously you don't want to hand it off to him because he's going to get tackled. So he ends up pulling and running here. So those are some good design runs, by Cleveland. But, again, you can only do that when you have certain people back there running. All right, last one. I know I'm beating y'all down over here, Bengals fans. But the last clip I got, the Browns decided to put in what you see here. This is number 53. That's Nick Harris. He's a center. Okay, he's a backup center. You got 66 right here. That's James Hudson. He's a backup tackle. Okay, so you come in and you see them say, hey, 66 is eligible, 53 is eligible. Well, that's what they're saying. They can actually run pass routes. Well, what they're doing is they're going to run here, pull around here, bring Chubb down here, try to bring everybody in on the run, and then block them for like just a second, and you'll see them slip out here to the flat. And that's hard to defend. I don't care who you are, what team you are, how good your defense is, but you've got two guys wide open right there. It's a tough play to defend, especially when you probably have the tendency every time you bring that big guy in and that big guy in, every time you bring those guys in, you're running the ball, and that's a tough thing to defend. So all I'm saying is just every once in a while you just get got. And right there, obviously you're going to throw to him because you're really reading the first defender out there, and he's open in the flat. So that's where they're going with that. It's not a bad showing by the Bengals defense. And I know that's hard for people to kind of comprehend. Of like, yeah, they're better than that. I get it. They're better than that. They can do better. There's a lot of things that they can fix that are simple fixes, and there's nothing on there. And I went through and watched, and most of the stuff was gap sound. Most of the stuff was right on where you want it to be. But the problem is the game kind of got out of hand, and by the time Cleveland starts running the ball the way that they're running the ball, and kind of got things going on offense, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I was looking back at the chat here, and I see a lot of Elves comments. I made an Elf comment last week. I took some heat from Cleveland, but you know what? Whatever. You have an Elf on your field. Y'all beat the Bengals, and I think Jamar Chase said it best. I called them Elves, and we got beat by some Elves. But you know what? They get to play again. They'll play again in Cincinnati. I don't know the date on that one off the top of my head, but it'll come back, and they'll get a chance. I'm just telling you right now, it's not gonna be as bad as people think it is. Now moving on to the offense, I think a lot of people have looked at this first play and said, how are they going to allow Burrow to get hit like he got hit on the first play? Well, I'm going to throw it out there. The first play was a run play. The first play was a run call. Now, let me explain exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to let this get set up. So what the Bengals do, and I've done it in my offenses, I've been involved with offenses that have done it. You're going to run a play where he's blocking here, everybody else is pretty much blocking here, and it's an inside zone. Well, what you do is on the front side and the play side, so the play's going left. So you see how I have Mixon drawn in left. If the play's left, what you do is you put a 5-yard quick out. Some people call it an Omaha. It's a 5-yard quick out. And if the guy is off like this, the quarterback has the power to say, pre-snap read right now, I'm going to throw this because it's a give and take. I'm going to take it. Boom, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? It's not even a post-snap read. This is just a pre-snap read. Corner's off. I know Chase is running a 5-yard out. And you can see right here, that's what he does. He catches it, doesn't ride the fake or anything like that. Catches it, he gave it a little fake, but really just he gave him enough time to run the 5 yards. Boom. He knew he was throwing that. Well, here's the issue with this. is you've got a guy in Zadarius Smith. Okay, I mentioned number 99 last week in the preview show. I played against this guy when I was in Detroit. This guy was at Green Bay. He's been at Minnesota. He was at Baltimore for years, so the Bengals are very familiar with him. Very, very good player. Okay, he comes down here. Well, Irv Smith does not get over. People are saying he takes a bad angle. I'm gonna halfway disagree with that. Irv Smith thinks the ball's getting handed off. Now he's got to go hit the guy. I agree. I 100% agree. He's got to go hit the guy. But right here, obviously, if you hand that ball off, I can tell you right now, 99 ain't worried about Joe Mixon. Not one bit. Not one iota is 99 worried about Joe Mixon. If they hand this ball off to Joe Mixon, there's a lot of room right there. So now, can you blame Burrow for this? I say no also, because there is an off corner over here over Chase. You got to think, get them going. But so point being is this was not protection. This was not an offensive line protection issue. This was an RPO gone wrong, and really it was a pre-snap RPO gone wrong, and he just got he got hammered right there. So that's the first play. It's a little bit different when people want to blame the offensive line. That's not an offensive line issue right there. That was just the play didn't get run right. Now I'm gonna sound like I'm making a pun here. I'm not. So there's a thing I like to call a chase route. Well, Chase is going to be running a chase route here, and what you're going to see is Chase is going to come over here. He's going to come back in motion, and what's going to happen is you're going to have two guys running right here. He's actually going to be chasing. He's going to chase the stem of this receiver and then break it off. Well, what happens is when you're playing, if you're a flat defender, like this guy's a flat defender, what's going to happen is you get two guys running up the field like this. Well, is anybody going to the flat yet? No. So you kind of hang, and all of a sudden Chase breaks it off. Well, this was a 3rd and 5, I believe. No, I'm sorry. This was actually a 3rd and 10. It was actually a 3rd and 10. So if you look right here, when he breaks it off, he comes back and he chases that receiver, and he breaks it off right here. All of a sudden, you've got kind of a natural pick happening right here, and it causes obviously the best player on the field behind Burrow to be wide open. So those kind of things are being used, and it was a first down. This was early in the game, so it was a good play design. And again, I call that a chase route. I know it's obviously chase. So why do you think they bring Chase in motion and bring him back? Anybody in the chat bring it up, because if you bring number 1 over here and bring him back over here, what do you think they're going to do if they're playing man? Somebody's going to be following him over here, right? Well, what they looked at right here and said, okay, nope, not man anymore. This helps the quarterback. This helps the quarterback to understand man zone. Okay, now I know I got zone, so I'm probably going to have that out route by, yeah, exactly. Jake, I love seeing Jake Lisco in the chat here. Looking for man zone indicators. That's all it is. And they're looking for ways to say, okay, where should I go with this ball? Because if it's man, you might be going to a different area. You might be going to this corner route here instead of hitting Chase. And there's ways to kind of figure out what they're doing as they're doing it. Now looking at this, okay, I'm everybody's tired of hearing about Myles Garrett. Okay, listen, I tried to tell y'all, Texas A&M. All right, I've got a soft place in my heart for him, but he does play for the Browns. I get it. But this has kind of made the rounds on social media in the last day. He told everybody or told somebody pregame that he was going to try to introduce himself to every offensive lineman. Well, what he meant by that was he was going to line up over the center. He was going to line up over the guard, over the tackle, over the guard, over the tackle. He was going to line up over every one of them at some point. Well, here he is, and this is hard. So you've got Myles Garrett literally doing a dance right here. Well, what does that do for the center? That it puts him on kind of an island of like, oh crap, what do I do? Now watch this from the end zone. You'll see him here. I mean, this is what kind of made the he's dribbling a basketball between his legs. Like, I think that's what he's doing right here. He's pretending like he's dribbling a basketball. So he's just having fun over here. And then is he going left? Is he going right? Is he going left? Where's he going? And then when Myles Garrett does that, and right now you got to remember, they set it up. It's big on big. It's one-on-one. It's 5-on-5 across the board right here. You created a situation where you can't slide the line and get two guys on their best guys. And all of a sudden, here comes Myles Garrett running through here. Now, he doesn't get the sack right here, but it created Burrow to have to step up. Is that a Bengals protection issue? Yes, that could easily be fixed. All right, that can easily be fixed. But that's also Myles Garrett, and he gets paid the money he gets paid. He's the type of player he gets paid to do what he does for that. So, yes, I mean, I'm not making excuses for the Bengals offensive line by any means, but that's what it is. Now, when you're going 3rd and 7, and just so you know, I'm going kind of in game order here, okay? I'm not trying to clump all this together. I'm kind of going in game order so you guys can feel the flow of the game, and that's where certain things – you say, why didn't they run the ball more? Why didn't they, try to, throw the ball to Chase more or get the ball deep? Well, this is just kind of flowing with the game here. That's where I'm going. So it's 3rd and 7 right now. So obviously they've got to get to that line right there. Well, they're running what I call triple slant. So you got an inside looky, you got a little slant here, and then you got a guy running kind of an under right here, a 5-yard under. And what it does is it gives you 3 guys working into your vision over on this side. Well, Tyler Boyd has a chance right here. Now, on a looky route, you push up and you cross face of this guy. So you go right inside of that guy. And then I was actually on a team with Tyler, and I think Tyler's a heck of a player. So you see how he flattens it out just a touch right here? If he doesn't flatten that out and he just keeps it just a touch higher, he catches that and he probably gets that first down. But because he kind of had it flattened it out just a little bit, it's caused him to not get it, and I think this was 1 yard short. So, again, it's those little details that a lot of people don't even see happening out there. Like, well, why'd you throw it short of the sticks? Well, I don't think they were meaning to throw it short of the sticks. It's just get a little bit of a higher angle than you got, and then you might get it. Now, again, does he get it? I don't know, but the point being is, that's what they're trying to get done. And, again, the triple slant is a great concept, and I love it. And, I see Jake says that you didn't even know it's still in the playbook. It's still in the playbook, man. I'm telling you. The stuff that you thought was out of the playbook from like 1980 is about to come back. I'm telling you, watch out. You might even get some wing tee in the NFL soon. There's some weird things kind of floating around out there. So, don't be shocked when you see some crazy, split back formations from under center, like old school 1980s San Francisco stuff. So don't be shocked when you start seeing that kind of stuff. All right, now Joe Mixon. All right, I'm just going to play the play, and I want everybody watching to say, is this not the Joe Mixon that you thought you were getting when he signed his second contract? This is Joe Mixon right here. This is who I know Joe Mixon as. All this is duo. Bam. Keeps his feet. That is Joe Mixon. That's showing physicality. This is just a straight-up duo play. Everybody knows duo. It's all just basically you're double teaming where you can, or you're man blocking across the board, and then you let him come in. He reads the backer, makes a cut. But watch what he does to the safety. You can see it from the end zone too. That safety's doesn't want anything to do with Joe up high. He's trying to go low on his legs. Boom, hits him, still runs through, keeps his legs moving. Watch this from the end zone. Again, this is just straight up duo. And when I say it's just duo, it's just double teams, basically a double team here and your man here. And all they're doing is just washing them down. He makes the cut here. That's an impressive cut. Now, look, you're one-on-one with the safety. The safeties aren't blocked. And here's the thing. A lot of people go, well, we didn't block that guy. Safeties aren't blocked the most of the time. And there's a reason for that. That's why they're called safeties. They play so far back. So, boom, he hits him. He runs through him. He still gets another few yards. That's the Joe Mixon I believe that everybody, wanted to see. And Now I see on here, was it weird they kept running to the right side instead of the left side? Well, obviously, I like what you said. Obviously, this is to the left. I would say I don't think that necessarily was a thought process with them. I know over time there are some times where you say I want to run behind a certain guy. I'm not sure the Bengals have a guy on their line that they say, okay, we're going to run behind him specifically. It may have just coincidentally ended up being right. I can tell you that I've been calling plays now, and coincidentally some things just happen to happen, and all of a sudden you got tendencies, and you try to fix them, but sometimes it depends where the ball lands. It depends on what hash you get on. So now people are going to look at the bottom of the screen and go, Mixon's showing MYM. Well, what is MYM? That is make you miss. All right. There is a make you miss factor. I remember when we drafted Joe Mixon, I remember putting make you miss I put MYM in his draft write-up of like, this kid has make you miss. And everybody, I think, in scouting understands what that is. People in football understands what that is. There is a talent to, getting in the open field and being able to attack somebody straight up and just make them miss. And a lot of people don't have it. Now, what I want to show you here is, there were my calendar for some reason. What I want to show you here is when he gets downhill, this is just an outside zone. This is just an outside zone going this way. He actually makes a really good cut in between the linemen. The linemen do a great job of laterally stretching the defense. So what I mean by laterally stretching, so there's Myles Garrett. Run him up the field. Just get him out of the way. Now, just run these guys this way. That's all you got to do. Just run those guys this way. So you see how they just run them this way? Now he comes through here and he makes a cut right here. Now, you always see running backs running through the ropes or running over bags and things like that. Well, you do that because of this. See him pull his feet up. See him pull his feet up. It's a lot easier to see from the back side of this. And what you'll see here is when he comes through here, he'll run him up. He'll run a guy past, and he cuts up him inside right here. And you'll see, watch him pull his feet up. This is something, these are things that, yes, you coach, but you see how he pulled his feet up right there? See, you can kind of see his feet being pulled up. And then watch what he does right here. So this guy's going after his legs. Well, he pulls his legs up around him. And that's something you work on, but that's not something. And then watch, stiff arm, boom, get him off of me. Take him for another 5 yards. Those are things you work on, but that's something, again, I think people have been waiting to see Joe Mixon do this kind of thing. And that's, again, I think the Bengals have a really good running back in Joe Mixon, and they will be for another few years. I don't see him going, it's going to take a lot to get that kid to not want to play the way he's playing. Now, there's some miscommunication here. I'm not sure what's going on. You can see it from the I'm actually going to flip to the end zone of this real quick. If you watch the end zone of this, he's telling the receiver to motion in, but I want you to watch his finger right here. These are the things that a lot of people don't see, especially on a TV copy. You'll see him kind of after he gets set here. See how he wiggles his finger right there. I'll rewind it. I'll let you see it. He wiggles his finger just a little bit. And I think I can't tell if he's telling the outside guy, hey, run a go. I don't think he's telling Tyler Boyd anything because he's not looking, but you can see him wiggle his finger right there. Well, that's why if you watch this throw from the sideline, something happened. I'm not sure if he was supposed to run a go. I don't know if that's what that signal meant, but it looks like he runs an out right here. And that ball ends up going where the go should have gone. And again, I don't think he was talking to Tyler Boyd. So it must have been a miscommunication between him and Huggins right here of possibly saying, hey, listen, dude, run a go. Just run a go, and I'm going to throw it to you deep. But there was some miscommunication somewhere in there, and it caused, obviously, a bad throw here. And again, that was a third down. So you're talking about, another third down opportunity that was wasted right there. But Burrow's trying to do something there. Apparently there was some miscommunication right there. So hopefully they can get that fixed. Now, as we're looking at this, 2nd and 10. All right. I'm not sure if Orlando Brown was expecting a chip from Joe here. So when you got Myles Garrett right there, a lot of times what you'll do is if you watch the way he sets, the way the left tackle sets, he sets and turns. Well, a lot of times when you set and turn like this, when you set and turn like that, either you're beat and you know you're beat, or you're expecting a little bit of a chip right there. Now, could this been a miscommunication between the back and the tackle? I'm not 100% sure, okay? So, with that being said, if you watch right here, it causes a bad throw. Now, if Joe Mixon right here, because Joe, I believe, is in protection. I don't think this is a free, this is not a free release, because you could see he kind of, his eyes are in protection. Look at his eyes. You can see the stripes on his helmet. This is where, as a coach, and as a, if you're kind of an aspiring coach, always look at the stripes of a helmet. Now, the Bengals stripes are different, but like you got the stripe on this dude's helmet, it's going straight down his helmet. Well, if the stripe's facing that way, where do you think he's looking? You can always, like right here, the stripe of 22's helmet's looking that way. So he's looking over here. The stripe of his helmet's, and if you ever hear somebody say, yeah, look at the stripe of his helmet, that's what they're talking about. They're saying, look at the stripe of his helmet, because it's telling you where he's looking. All right, so right here. So I think Joe right now, so you can see he kind of hesitates. He's like looking at number 5 possibly. But I'm not sure if he was supposed to chip right here, but you can see in the next couple clips right there, if he chips him right there, it may give Joe Burrow just a little bit of a chance to, get a little bit, extra out there. Now, this is a chip on the edge. Now, this is 3rd and 10. Again, Myles Garrett is over here. Now, watch Evans right here. Evans is going to come up and give a good chip off the edge. Now, why do you chip off the edge? There's multiple reasons why you do. Obviously, you got a great rusher. But if you look, bam. So he hits him right there. What does that do? That does 2 things. Number 1 is it allows the tackle, like I said a minute ago, to set as if he has help from the outside. Number 2 is it stops Myles Garrett's feet for just a second, which honestly, if you just want to stop his feet and slow him down for just a second, that's all you need. But again, you can see they're trying to give help on the edge. And obviously, Orlando Brown's a good player, don't get me wrong. But every good tackle, I remember Whitworth used to hate getting chips. He used to tell us not to give him chips. But, there's times where, guys just need help. And has nothing to do with how good of a tackle they are, how good of a player they are. But right here, so Evans had to check his guy most likely first. And then he's going to come out here. Now, if you watch this, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pause it just perfectly, but you see how Evans got up underneath and hit him in that rib cage? That's actually drilled. That's a really, really good view of a running back doing the correct chip, techniques and hitting him under the ribs. You always hear say, take a little bit out of his rib cage. And one of the coolest, I remember Hugh Jackson used to go, take some football out of him. Make him not want to play football. Just take something out of him. And that's where, so right here, I think they did a good job of creating a little bit extra time. And obviously, it allowed him to get a throw off. And, it didn't get the first down, but it allowed, Joe Burrow to at least be able to scramble just for a minute. Now, what you're going to see here, though, is you're going to see a tight end chip. So they're kind of moving in the same direction. You can see now they got a tight end in the wing right here, and boom, he's going to end up chipping. And this is a major blitz look, but you can see they're trying to get those guys involved to help keep Burrow, upright here. And right now, Cleveland's kind of teeing off on them. If you look at the score's 10-3. It's in the 3rd quarter. It's not. But you kind of felt it going in that direction. So Cleveland's starting to kind of pin their ears back. The TE opposite of this, though. So if you look, here's Myles Garrett, and they know right now, okay, we're starting to get chips. Well, they're going to run a TE over here with Zadarius Smith, who I keep bringing that guy's name up. He's a good player. But here's what's going to happen. Watch. They're going to run a blitz and a TE, and you'll see it from the end zone is – it's hard to pick up because in all reality, even though you might be sliding the line, you're actually sliding the line away from it, the back's got him. Okay, but when he does this and he comes around, Well, in all reality, how are you going to pass this off with these two guys when this guy's in the middle on your back? And right there, it just ended up being a bad situation because, you just don't have enough bodies the way that they're doing it. Now, if they were to slide the line the other way, if they put Joe Mixon on 6, and they slid the line this way, you might be able to pass that off in the center, pick him up. But they have reasons for doing what they're doing. They have reasons for setting the protection to where they're setting it. I did not watch the Browns enough as compared to Frank Pollock and Zach and those guys to know where they should set the line. So I'm never going to second guess somebody that's actually watched the film more than I have. But sometimes, hey, defenses pick the right blitz at the right time. It happens. And again, you just got to play the games, and that's why you play the games. I see y'all talking about the elf again. I mean, I get it. I kind of had it paused right here. And the bad thing about the elf, I'm going to point out, you're supposed to have your fingertips over the, like I'll use this football. You're supposed to have your fingertips over the edge like that. That elf is holding the ball like a loaf of bread. I mean, you got to, if you're at least going to put an elf on your field, have him show good ball security. You can't just continue to show bad ball security. So, but give the elf credit. Give the elf credit. I mean, he did. Chase said something. I said something. I know nobody's listening to me compared to Jamar Chase, but yes, typical poor ball security elf. It happens. So now looking at, let's take this one step further, and this is what I want to make sure that people from the Bengals, the Bengals fan base is seeing. Everybody's like, man, it just seems like we just couldn't get going. Well, here's what you're going to see here now. Well, you move the back over here. My little red keeps showing up here. Apparently, they want me to be red tonight. So, but you got a tight end here. He's going to chip off the edge. The back's going to chip off the edge. So you're getting double edge chips. Now, why do you do that? I want you to watch the rush of Cleveland. Everything's going to kind of end up getting funneled inside, and you end up funneling kind of everything inside when you do that, and it allows obviously your line to create more of a wall, if you want to say. And even with the TE right there that they did, they were able to pick it up. It just obviously still completion there, but you'd like to see something deeper. But you can see that they came in and said, okay, we need to start investing our tight ends and backs with their rush. And you can see, because the tight end hit this guy, it slowed him down just enough to where they were able to pass this off. So when this guy came inside, when Zadarius Smith rushed here, 65 was able to push him on to Jonah Williams. And then obviously, you want to get Jonah Williams on his guy there. So they were able to pass that off. Last clip I got, and I know y'all are probably like, man, it's about time this guy stopped talking. This is Travion Williams is a little late to this chip, all right, and he gets split by Garrett. Okay, so this is where we're talking about these chips and how they have to be like, you got to be right up against the tackle. You cannot give yourself any room to where they could split between you. And you'll see here, really from the other side, from the end zone angle, that Travion Williams is trying to chip here with Jonah Williams. Well, the problem is the set of Jonah Williams and Travion Williams, it just didn't jive right here. So you see how he turned right there. Well, he probably should have set a little bit deeper on him. See how he gave that little move in there, and Williams decided to kind of bite on that move. Well, maybe he shouldn't bite on that move, but he does have outside help. So that's what he's thinking is the tackle. He's thinking right now, 32 should be right here, right now. As a running back coach, I know I would tell him, if you're waiting right here, if you're waiting to chip, you're wrong. You should be going up into the line and go up and chip that guy into the line and make sure that he's taken care of, and make sure you're shoulder to shoulder right there with him. And they're not. And right there, that's how he gets the split right there and ends up getting a hold of Burrow. So, obviously, rough outing for the Bengals. It's not. What I would say is this: is Joe Burrow did not play well. All right, and I think he'd be the first one to tell you he didn't play well. I think it was just one of those things that it kind of came out flat. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen throughout the season. That team, there's still too many good players on that team to do what they did multiple times. Now, they do host the Ravens this Sunday at 1 o'clock at Paycor, which is still Paul Brown to me. It's hard for me to let that one go. It's just the Ravens have had the Bengals number at times, but I will say during my stretch with the Bengals, I was there from 2010 to 18. We had a stretch there, and from like 2013 to 2016 where we won a lot of games against the Ravens, and I think it just we knew the Ravens, we knew the type of defense they had, and we were able to attack them in the way we wanted to attack them. And it doesn't necessarily mean the Ravens have Lamar Jackson. Well, Lamar Jackson in this last game, they're 1-0, yeah, but they beat Houston 25-7. I know the Texans are kind of they're an up and coming team. They got a long way to go, but they held Houston to 268 yards. But Lamar only had 207 total yards. All right, and he had 169 passing and 38 rushing. And for a guy of the talent of Lamar Jackson, that's kind of tough to say. That's what they got to get going. And again, I just showed you Deshaun Watson. You're going to face a team this next week that has the same style of running back, but also has been known to have a lot more quarterback design runs. So you got to be ready to take on a team that can use him in multiple ways, but also, can throw the ball a little bit. Now, I will say this. I'm reading some of the chat, and I think it's funny. You'll say the elf looks cool. I have nothing wrong. I have nothing against the elf. Now the blocking's atrocious. I wouldn't say I was making excuses. I would tell you this. I was just pointing to you where it needs to be fixed. There are things that they can do now to fix these things, and they've made the AFC Championship in the Super Bowl in the last 2 years for a reason. I would say that have some faith in that's going to happen. I'm not sure they're going to, if they get turned around, they get turned around. Now, I will say this: the fan base of the Bengals was good when I was there. Don't get me wrong, but I think that you guys that come out this next week and show out at home, it's going to be one of those things that's hard to play in. It's hard to play as a visiting team when you've got that kind of juice behind you. But again, we'll see what happens. Again, it's the Bengals and Ravens. This Sunday, we'll be right back here next Tuesday. And Tommy, hey, listen, I'm coming back at you, Tommy. I know you're not blaming me, man. I'm sitting here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I would love to be in there trying to fix things. But Tommy, I'm with you, brother. Hey, I appreciate. Hey, I've seen some guys in the chat. I appreciate you guys, Mark Fetters. Seen you, I've seen you everywhere, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate your support. If y'all can get the word out about Chatterbox Clicker, go subscribe to the YouTube channel, like it, share it. Please get it out there. My Twitter handle and my Instagram handle are at the top up there at Coach Kyle Caskey. Please follow at Cbox Sports on Twitter. And really, hey, I'm excited to be a part of this. And whatever you guys can bring, the feedback you can bring to make this a better show for you, I'm all ears, and I'm excited to be a part of this. So appreciate you guys, and we will see you next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Talk about the Ravens game.